The following video is created for educational and awareness purposes only. Our goal is to revisit unsolved criminal cases and keep their stories alive, in hopes that renewed attention may one day help bring answers, or even justice. We do not intend to accuse, defame, or spread misinformation about anyone involved. All information is based on publicly available sources and media reports.
Picture this, folks. It's the late 1960s, a time of peace protests, moon landings, and cultural revolution. But on a seemingly ordinary Friday afternoon in November 1969, right after Thanksgiving, the quiet halls of Penn State's Pattee Library become the stage for a nightmare. A bright, ambitious 22-year-old graduate student named Betsy Aardsma, dressed in a striking red dress, steps into the dimly lit stacks to grab a book for her research paper. Moments later, she collapses amid a cascade of tumbling books. No scream, no witnesses to the act itself, just a single, precise stab wound that pierces her heart.
The killer slips away like a ghost, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions that have baffled detectives, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts for over half a century. This isn't just any cold case. It's been called Pennsylvania's most infamous unsolved murder. Join me as we peel back the layers of this chilling mystery, from Betsy's promising life to the shadowy suspects and the investigative blunders that let a killer walk free. If you're into true crime that keeps you up at night, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive deep into the stacks, where death lurked in disguise. Welcome to Haunting Justice, where we chase the truth, no matter how cold it gets.
To understand the tragedy of Betsy Aardsma's murder, we have to start with who she was. A young woman on the cusp of greatness, whose life was a blend of small-town roots and big-city dreams. Born Elizabeth Ruth Aardsma on July 11, 1947, in Holland, Michigan, Betsy grew up in a quintessential American Midwest setting. Holland back then was a charming town of around 25,000 residents, famous for its tulip festivals and strong Dutch heritage. Her parents, Esther and Richard Aardsma, raised her and her three siblings in a devoutly religious, conservative middle-class home. Church on Sundays, family dinners, and a strong emphasis on education and morality shaped her early years. From a young age, Betsy stood out. She had a natural talent for poetry and art, often sketching scenes from her imagination or penning verses that reflected her deepening thoughts on life and society. As she entered her teenage years, Betsy's worldview began to evolve. While her family held traditional values, she developed more liberal ideals, showing a genuine concern for the underprivileged and questioning social norms. This wasn't rebellion, it was growth. At Holland High School, she excelled academically, graduating with honors in 1965. Her teachers remembered her as thoughtful, creative, and driven, someone who could light up a room with her ideas.
College was the next chapter, and Betsy dove in headfirst. In the fall of 1965, she enrolled at Hope College in her hometown, fueled by a passion to become a physician. Medicine wasn't just a career for her, it was a calling to help others, especially those in need. Her roommate there, Linda Denbeston, later described Betsy as an intelligent and fascinating person who exhibited early feminist traits, independent, opinionated, and unafraid to challenge the status quo in an era when women's roles were often predefined. But after 2 years, Betsy sought broader horizons. In the fall of 1967, she transferred to the University of Michigan, where she majored in English and art. Ann Arbor's vibrant campus life suited her perfectly. She shared an apartment with 3 other female students, balancing rigorous coursework with explorations of literature, painting, and social issues. By her senior year, love entered the picture. Betsy met David Wright, a dedicated medical student who became her first serious boyfriend. Friends said their relationship was genuine and supportive. Long conversations about dreams, shared laughs, and plans for the future. David was everything Betsy admired: intelligent, ambitious, and kind. She graduated from Michigan with honors in the summer of 1969, her diploma a symbol of her perseverance. But post-graduation, Betsy faced a crossroads. Her initial plan was adventurous: to join the Peace Corps and head to Africa, using her skills to make a difference in underserved communities. It was a bold move, aligning with her compassionate nature and desire for independence.
However, love complicated things. David was set to continue his studies at Penn State, and he honestly admitted he couldn't guarantee loyalty if she ventured abroad for an extended period. Betsy, deeply in love after about a year together, chose to stay closer. She enrolled at Pennsylvania State University in early October 1969, just 8 weeks before her life would end. At Penn State, she lived in Atherton Hall, rooming with Sharon Brandt. Life there was low-key for Betsy. She wasn't into the party scene or extracurriculars. Instead, she focused on her studies or made the nearly 100-mile trek to Penn State Hershey on weekends to be with David. Their bond was strong. They even discussed getting engaged by Christmas, envisioning a life together as partners in medicine and beyond.
Yet beneath the surface, there was ambivalence. Friend Linda Marsa recalled Betsy expressing doubts about settling into the traditional role of a physician's wife and mother while still so young. Was this truly her path, or was there more out there? More adventures, more self-discovery? These questions lingered, adding a layer of poignancy to her story. By Thanksgiving 1969, stress was creeping in. Betsy had fallen behind on a key English assignment, a research paper that demanded her attention. She spent November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving, with David, his roommates, and their girlfriends, enjoying a brief respite. But duty called. David drove her to a Harrisburg bus stop that afternoon so she could return to campus and consult her professors. As the bus pulled away, no one could have imagined it was one of her final journeys. Betsy's life was a tapestry of potential: artistic, intellectual, romantic. She represented the best of her generation, curious, empathetic, and ready to change the world. Tragically, that potential was snuffed out in a place of learning, turning her story into a cautionary tale of vulnerability and unresolved justice. The day after Thanksgiving, November 28, 1969, started like any other post-holiday Friday on Penn State's sprawling University Park campus. With most students still away visiting family, the grounds felt unusually serene, almost deserted. Snow dusted the lawns, and a chill hung in the air, but inside Atherton Hall, Betsy Aardsma and her roommate Sharon Brandt were focused on productivity. They left their dorm that afternoon, heading to the Pattee Library to hunt for research materials for Betsy's lagging English paper. Along the way, they chatted casually before separating, agreeing to meet up later that evening for a movie, perhaps a light-hearted escape from academic pressures.
Around 4 p.m., Betsy stopped by to speak with her professor, Nicholas Jakovsky. She mentioned her intention to venture into the Stack Building, affectionately known as the Stacks among students, a multi-level warren of bookshelves housing lesser-used volumes. Before entering the library, she briefly conversed with 2 friends, Linda Marsa and Robert Steinberg, sharing quick updates on her day. These would be among her last known interactions. Betsy entered the Pattee Library, a grand structure symbolizing knowledge and discovery, but its core stacks were anything but inviting. Dimly lit, cramped with narrow aisles barely wide enough for two people to pass, and often plunged into shadows by flickering fluorescent lights, the area felt isolated, even claustrophobic. She stored her purse, jacket, and a book in her assigned carrel on the main level, consulted the card catalog for her reference, and then descended a flight of stairs to level 2 core stacks around 4:30 p.m. This section was typically quiet, a haven for serious researchers, but on this holiday-thin day, it was even more so. Minutes after her arrival, Assistant Supervisor Dean Brungard caught a glimpse of a young woman in a red dress standing alone in one of the aisles, likely Betsy. Nearby, he noticed two young men engaged in a hushed conversation, their voices low and indistinct. Nothing seemed amiss at the time. Then, around 4:40 p.m., another witness, Richard Allen, who was studying nearby, overheard a brief exchange between a male and female voice in Betsy's general direction. It sounded innocuous, perhaps a casual chat or even a flirtation, nothing to raise alarms. But moments later, the calm shattered with a sudden metallic crashing noise, as if shelves or books were toppling over. Some later accounts speculated about a high-pitched female scream preceding the crash, but primary eyewitness reports focused solely on the commotion of falling books, with no confirmation of a cry for help. What happened next unfolded in a blur. Between 4:45 and 4:55 p.m., in the tight confines between rows 50 and 51, Betsy was attacked. The assailant wielded a hunting-style knife with a single-edged blade measuring 3.5 to 4 inches long, delivering one devastating thrust. The blade penetrated her breastbone with tremendous force, severing her pulmonary artery and piercing the right ventricle of her heart. Betsy slumped to the ground, her body knocking several books from the adjacent shelves as she fell onto her back amid the scattered volumes. Remarkably, there were no defensive wounds on her hands or arms, sparking endless debate. Did she know her attacker, allowing them to get close without suspicion? Was she struck from the front in a moment of shock, or grabbed from behind in a swift ambush? In the immediate aftermath, two students, Joao Wafinda and Marilee Erdley, heard the disturbance and spotted a man hurrying away from the area. He was concealing his right hand, perhaps hiding blood or the weapon, and urgently exclaimed, "That girl needs help." Erdley provided a detailed description: approximately 6 feet tall, around 185 pounds, with neatly kept brown hair, possibly wearing glasses, dressed in khaki washable slacks, a tie, and a sports jacket. This portrayal would later haunt investigators, as it bore an uncanny resemblance to a key figure in the case. The man guided Wafinda and Erdley toward the source of the noise, where they found Betsy's body lying motionless amid the disarray of books and loosened metal shelves. As Erdley knelt to check for a pulse, feeling the faint warmth of life ebbing away, Wafinda kept an eye on the man, but he slipped away discreetly. Wafinda attempted to follow him upstairs, watching as the individual bolted out of the library toward the recreation hall, quickly outpacing any pursuit. Police would later issue public appeals for this mysterious witness or any similar individuals to come forward, emphasizing that they might hold crucial information. Yet no one ever did. Was this man an innocent bystander caught in the panic, or the perpetrator himself, cleverly directing attention while making his escape? The question lingers, a pivotal piece in the puzzle of that fateful day.
The attack on Betsy was brutal in its efficiency, a single, calculated strike that ensured silence and speed. She couldn't scream. The wound caused rapid internal hemorrhaging, flooding her chest cavity with blood and effectively drowning her from within. Externally, the signs were minimal. Betsy wore a sleeveless red dress made of thick material over a white turtleneck sweater, which concealed the small knife tear in the fabric. Only a modest amount of blood was visible on her clothing, misleading those who first discovered her.
Bystanders, including library patrons and staff, initially assumed a medical emergency unrelated to violence, a faint, perhaps a seizure, or even an accidental fall. No one imagined murder in such a scholarly sanctuary. At 5:01 p.m., a call went out to the Reitner Health Center. A girl has fainted in the library. Student paramedics responded swiftly, arriving within minutes. They began cardiopulmonary resuscitation on the spot, then transported her on a gurney to the health center, their efforts valiant but ultimately futile given the severity of the injury.
This misdiagnosis proved catastrophic for the investigation. Before police were even notified of a potential homicide, library staff, believing it was merely an unfortunate accident, directed janitors to tidy up the scene. The urine on the tile floor from Betsy's final moments was mopped away, erasing any biological evidence. Dislodged shelves were straightened, and the fallen books were meticulously restacked on their proper places. In their haste to restore order, they unwittingly destroyed fingerprints, footprints, hair fibers, or any other trace evidence the killer might have left behind. It was a well-intentioned cleanup that turned a potentially rich crime scene into a sterile void. Upon arrival at the health center, a senior medical staffer noticed blood seeping through Betsy's clothing. CPR was halted immediately, and upon closer examination, the single stab wound was discovered, a clean puncture hidden beneath layers. A physician officially pronounced her dead at 5:50 p.m., less than an hour after the attack. The news spread like wildfire across campus, transforming a quiet holiday weekend into a scene of shock and fear.
That same night, starting at 11 p.m., Dr. Thomas Magnani performed the autopsy at Bellefonte Hospital. His findings were chilling. Betsy had died within 5 minutes of the stabbing, the cause being massive hemorrhaging from the severed artery and heart puncture. There was no evidence of sexual assault, ruling out one potential motive. Minor bruising and abrasions around one ear were attributed to her fall, not the assault itself. Petechial hemorrhaging, tiny burst blood vessels, appeared on her chest, consistent with the internal pressure from bleeding. Magnani opined that the killer faced Betsy directly, intentionally targeting her heart with considerable force to breach the breastbone. He believed the assailant was right-handed based on the wound's angle. However, Pennsylvania state troopers countered this, suggesting the attack came from behind, with the killer grabbing her to muffle any reaction. The absence of defensive wounds supported both theories, or neither definitively, leaving room for speculation. Was it a crime of passion, executed face-to-face by someone she trusted, or a calculated ambush in the shadows? These questions would define the investigation's early struggles. In the hours following Betsy's death, the Pennsylvania State Police mobilized a massive response. Approximately 35 troopers were assigned, establishing a temporary command center in the Buki building. They conducted exhaustive interviews, hundreds at first, potentially swelling to 2,500 or 3,000 students, faculty, and staff over the ensuing weeks. The library's foot traffic was analyzed. On a normal Friday between 4:30 and 5 p.m., up to 400 people might enter or exit, but the holiday reduced that to about 90, narrowing the pool but still daunting. A $25,000 reward was offered, equivalent to roughly $217,300 in today's dollars, hoping to loosen tongues. Searches for the murder weapon yielded nothing immediate, though in the spring of 1970, a knife matching the blade's description was found under bushes outside the recreation hall. Unfortunately, exposure to the elements had degraded any forensic value. More promising were small, fresh blood droplets matching Betsy's type, recovered from the staircase leading to level 3 core stacks, indicating the killer's likely escape path upward and out.
Composite sketches were created, one from João Wafinda and a library desk clerk, kept internal, another from Marilee Erdley, released to media. Public pleas for the fleeing man to identify himself went unheeded, fueling suspicion. As leads poured in, theories emerged. First, the acquaintance or rejected suitor angle. The attack's intimacy, no scream, no flight, suggested Betsy knew her killer. Trooper Mike Simmers described it as up close and personal, likely one of her fellow students. Stalking was ruled out after reviewing her writings and interviews. She expressed no fears. Boyfriend David Wright was alibied and cleared swiftly.
A second prominent theory, an interrupted sexual encounter. Investigator Michael Much posited that Betsy stumbled upon two men engaged in illicit activity, recognized them, and was killed to ensure silence. In 1969, homophobia was rampant. Exposure could mean expulsion, job loss, or social ruin. Supporting this, the Level 2 stacks were infamous for clandestine hookups. Police uncovered over 24 pornographic magazines hidden between books in the murder aisle, featuring both heterosexual and homosexual content. Traces of semen were ubiquitous on floors, shelves, walls. One officer remarked it was practically everywhere. Nearby, a desk with its chair pulled back held a half-empty soda can and a stack of recent magazines dated October and November 1969. Partial fingerprints from the can didn't match databases, and those on the magazines were smudged beyond use. A fresh carving on a desktop read, "Here sat death in the guise of a man, RSK," adding an eerie prophetic touch.
Other ideas included a drug-related incident, perhaps witnessing a deal or an unpaid debt, but friends adamantly denied Betsy's involvement with drugs. Random violence was considered, but seemed unlikely given the precision. The investigation's greatest foe was the compromised scene. Haste, misdiagnosis, and bad luck erased physical clues, forcing reliance on eyewitness fragments, psychological profiles, and circumstantial threads. It transformed what might have been a quick solve into an enduring enigma, a case jammed not by complexity, but by simple human error.
Despite the frenzy, no prime suspects emerged immediately. Over years, 3 individuals drew scrutiny. William Spencer, a 40-year-old sculptor recently relocated to Pennsylvania and teaching at a local college, raised red flags. At a faculty Christmas party in 1969, he allegedly confessed, "I killed that girl in the library." Interrogated in early 1970, Spencer claimed acquaintance with Betsy, saying she'd agreed to pose nude for his sculpture classes for extra cash. He even asserted he'd been in the stacks, witnessed the murder by a man in an overcoat, and offered to sculpt a bust of the assailant. But his story crumbled. Spencer had only moved to the area weeks prior, leaving scant time for friendship. Betsy was known as modest and prudish. The nude modeling claim was uncorroborated and contradicted by all who knew her. His class models hailed from Philadelphia. Police dismissed him as a fabulist seeking attention.
Next, Larry Maurer, a classmate who'd befriended Betsy and taken her for coffee in the weeks before her death. His familiarity sparked initial suspicion. Described as blonde, average height, and glasses-free, he didn't match the fleeing man's profile. Maurer underwent a polygraph. Reports conflict on results. One says he passed, but lie detectors are notoriously unreliable and inadmissible in court. He was ultimately cleared, fading from the spotlight. The most compelling and controversial suspect, Richard Charles Haefner, a 25-year-old geology graduate student at Penn State. Investigative journalists and authors like Derek Sherwood and David DeCock in books such as Murder in the Stacks strongly implicate him based on circumstantial evidence. Haefner was well-respected academically, but socially awkward, going to extremes to mask his homosexuality in an intolerant era, pursuing platonic relationships with women as cover. He had a volatile side,
explosive anger episodes, including a 1968 incident where he drove unannounced from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to declare love to a near stranger, only to be rejected harshly. He also allegedly pilfered mineral specimens from the university's collection.
Haefner lived across the courtyard from Betsy in Atherton Hall, dressed habitually in khaki trousers, sports coat with short, tidy brown hair, mirroring Eardley's description perfectly. They'd formed a brief, budding friendship, but Betsy ended it shortly before her death, reaffirming commitment to David Wright. DeCoke alleges Haefner harbored a crush, spurned romantically. His alibi unraveled under scrutiny. Questioned in early December 1969, Haefner denied ever entering Pattee Library, insisting he sourced geology materials solely from the Dyke Building. He claimed to have first heard murder rumors while dining at a student union that evening, feeling ill upon learning his former girlfriend was the victim.
Contradictions mounted. Sharon Brandt mentioned Haefner to police days after the murder, noting his visits to their apartment. In a 1976 report, acquaintance Lauren Wright, unrelated to David, recounted Haefner arriving at his home shortly after 6 p.m. on November 28th in exhausted panic, blurting, "Have you heard? A girl I dated was murdered in the library," before widespread news dissemination. The unreleased Uofinda sketch resembled Haefner strikingly. Post-murder, he shifted studies off-campus for 2 years, avoiding the library entirely. Haefner's later life darkened suspicions. In August 1975, he faced charges for molesting 2 young boys at his family's rock shop, tried for involuntary deviant sexual intercourse and corruption of minors. The jury hung 11-1 for guilty. Haefner filed vindictive lawsuits, expunging records in 1981. A nephew contacted Sherwood in 2009, recalling overhearing a 1975 argument between Haefner and his mother, Ear. Aware of prior 1967 pederasty accusations, she fretted police linking him to that girl at Penn State, concluding, "You killed that girl and now you're killing me."
Haefner died alone in a hospital bathroom in March 2002 from a torn aorta bleeding into his lungs, poetically mirroring Betsy's demise. Though never formally charged and not listed as a suspect until after lead investigator Sergeant George H. Keebler's retirement, the circumstantial web points strongly his way for many. Betsy Aardsma was laid to rest on December 3, 1969 in Holland, Michigan at Trinity Reformed Church. Reverend Gordon Van Oostenburg recited her 1965 poem, "Why Do I Live?", a poignant reflection on existence. In her open casket, a single rose from David Wright rested in her hands. Her final letter to him arrived the day after her death, a heartbreaking posthumous message. The case catalyzed change at Penn State. Amid rising violent crimes, sexual assaults, and student unrest in the late 1960s, the university relied only on campus patrols. Betsy's death highlighted the need for professional security, leading to the establishment of a full university police force in the early 1970s. The case turned cold, records sealed under Pennsylvania's Open Records Act. Yet, state police affirm it's active, welcoming tips. On campus, it's an urban legend, whispers of a ghost in the stacks, a reminder of vulnerability.
Betsy's story is a locked enigma, jammed by haste, misdiagnosis, and lost evidence. A flawless strike concealed by fabric and internal bleeding, a scene sanitized before realization. Investigators lean on fragmented testimonies, theories, and Haefner's shadow. Will DNA advances or a deathbed confession unlock it? Time will tell. If you know something, contact Pennsylvania State Police. Thanks for joining. Subscribe, comment theories, share. Stay safe out there.